Did I make it happen? Check one. Check. As we come to this place to recognize the place that we are in today, the place that we stand, we cannot recognize where we are unless we remember from whence we have come. So in this space, we pour a libation, we honor the past, we remember, we commemorate, we commensurate, and we remember. As we pour this libation, there are spaces where I will ask you to say, we pour into the.
Pardon me, I can't hear you in Egypt.
Hello, Egypt. Hello, family in New Orleans again. As we pour this libation, we ask that there will be points that I'll ask you to say Ashé, if you so agree. Amen, if you so agree. So be it, if you so agree. Ashé. We'll also ask that you remember those who have come before you by the right that we all stand here. Wherever we stand right now, we stand and can look back over our shoulders because someone came before us. As we pour this libation, honoring the creator of us all. You who are known by many names, but you are known by people everywhere. You are called Abba, Father. You are called Jehovah. You are called many things, but most of all, you are called our God, our Creator, and you who will be here before time. We say Ashé. Remember the motherland from whence we have come, that great motherland that some of our brothers and sisters are on right now, at the Fertile Crescent, where you decided that this world would be created and plant the feet of the first people. We remember you, and we remember those first people, and we say Ashé. We remember those who lived, breathed, and died on that great continent called Africa, that continent where we can all track, trace, and remember that we have come from, and we say Ashé. We would be remiss if we did not remember those who first came to this land, our brothers and sisters, who we call Native Americans, not what they call themselves. You, the first people of this nation, you who were here before there was, you who will be here after there is no more of what we call America, you who own this land, you who work this land, you who still toil this land. We say Ashé. We remember those who crossed that great expanse, the Atlantic, during the Middle Passage. We remember those who chose not to come, those who decided that they would not come, they would not bring children into this world, that they knew not where they were coming, but they made a choice, and their bodies rest in the Atlantic. And we say Ashé. We honor those who were not given a choice, those who for profit, those who for whatever reason were not allowed to make decisions, even decisions about being enslaved and coming to this land. Those who were seen as discardable, but who we know are our ancestors, who we know and who we shall never forget. And we say Ashé. We pour this libation in honor of those, as my brother, ancestor, Brother Morris F.X. Jeff called them, the precious black gold, the black gold that they could steal, but they could not kill. Those who came to this land and many other lands across the diaspora, those who created the big cities and kingdoms that we now live in, those who have labored and those who have loved, and we remember you, and we say Ashé. We remember those, the great ones, the names of those who we call the great ones. I call the great ones our ancestors, your ancestors. Yes, 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 we remember the Malcolms, we remember the Martins, we remember the Sojourners. But right now, I ask that you call your ancestors' names, the great ones on whose shoulders we stand. Ashé. 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 And to the autoborn, who are the first of their kind, you have ancestors. It is said that the second death is when their names are no longer remembered. Call their names. Call their names. Wilhelmina Peters, Junius Peters, Earl, Cece, Aberdeen, Tevis, Baba Douglas Red, John O'Neill, Adela, Ashé, Ashé,
Leopold,
Ashé, Ashé. 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 We pour this libation for those of us who stand, live, and breathe wherever we are planted. As my ancestor Mama Ama Watkins said, grow where you're planted. We have been planted all over this world. So we pour this libation for those of us who stand today. Let us grow where we're planted. Ashé. We pour this libation for the young ones, for those who are coming behind us, for those whose footsteps will follow what we left them. We pray that we lead this place better for them. And we say Ashé as we commit to that. We pour this libation for the yet unborn, those who still rest in the loins of our young ones. We want to leave you a place. We want to leave you a place that you can come to. We want to teach you, but we want to learn from you. May you have safe journey here to this place. And we say Ashé. And as it was in the beginning, as it shall be forevermore, only you, God, were here in the beginning, and only you, God, shall be here in the end. And we say Ashé, Ashé, Ashé. Thank you.
So we want to welcome everyone to Losing Louisiana, accountability through community solidarity. And today we're going to be doing a collaboration between Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt and COP27 and here. So we'll have some people that will be streamed in from Sharm el-Sheikh and some will be joining us here on the stage. We want to acknowledge our collaboration with the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice, as well as the Sierra Club. And our staff who are currently in Egypt, our Chief Equity Officer, Asali Devon Ecclesiastes, our Chief Creative Officer, Artistic Director, Frederick Hollywood Del Hussein, our Chief Finance Officer, Joanne Miner, our Chief Experience Officer, Sierra Chenier. We have 2 community health workers who are also artists, and that would be Stafford Agee and Sonny Patterson. And we want to recognize the other people who are part of our delegation. We have Savannah Ankar. She is a member of the Atakapa Ishak Chawasha Nation. We have Cheryl Austin, the Executive Director of the Greater Treme Consortium. Nick Aziz, who's an artist, a curator, a journalist, and he's with the New Orleans Museum of Art. Jazz Franklin, who is our videographer. Jarrell Hamilton, who is founder and lead choreographer for De La Soul Performance Company. Sharon Levine, who's with Rise St. James. Shamira Levine, who's also with Rise St. James. Shannon Rainey, who is a resident of Gordon Plaza, an environmental justice advocate. Ashley Shelton, who's the executive director of the Power Coalition. And Sage Michael Pillay, who is the New Orleans for Lincoln Beach founder, and he's with New Orleans Healthy Gulf and Gulf South for a Green New Deal. And he will be joining us later as well for Lincoln Beach. And right now, we would like to call to the stage the folks who will be with us. Oh, I missed one very important thing. We want to share a quote. So one of our ongoing collaborators is with Decolonize. He is a co-founder. His name is Omar El Amawi. And he says, the irresponsible, greed-addled expansion plans of oil and gas companies destroy local communities and whole ecosystems. And that was a quote from a panel that he was part of earlier this week at COP27. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mama Jamila, and she's going to announce our panelists for Lincoln Beach. Gordon Plaza, yes. Oh, yes. We're going to be showing two videos, actually, from Gordon Plaza. So that's what we're going to roll out first, and then Mama Jamila will be introducing our panelists. So without further ado, our films about Gordon Plaza.
It wasn't a very big garden, but it was a garden big enough to support my family needs. It was about, I guess, 20 by, I'd say maybe 15 by 20 or something like that. I had this whole section here. I planted it 2 or 3 times a year. Certain times of the year, certain things will grow. Okra, tomatoes, collards, cabbage, mustard, different things, beans. We had this for quite some time. And I finally stopped eating at it after I realized that this could be a real problem, especially after they said that they found that they tested so many of these houses around here, and they found that my house was one of the 7 that they tested that was supposed to be a little more toxic than some of the rest. So I said maybe it's best I don't eat out the garden no more. They said that it would be safe to eat as long as I didn't eat nothing that grew beneath the soil, like potatoes or peanuts or stuff that grows under the soil. They say don't eat nothing like that, carrots. But things that grew on top of the soil, they say I could eat it. And I find that to be kind of disturbing because whether it grew under the soil or on top, all the roots and things that feed the plant is under the soil. So I stopped my garden. I'm retired, I'm disabled, and that was something to do. It's like a hobby. I like to do it. And then on top of that, it wasn't too expensive, but it cost a little something to do it. And it saved us in the long run for vegetables and groceries. It helped the grocery bill out a little bit. But anyway, for my health, I decided, especially after we lost a child here, which of course she ate out the garden too, maybe it's not such a good idea.
Finding stockings, old shoes, bottle glass, tires, rubber, metal, and lead, all kind of debris.
Area opened up in 81, and the vast majority of the residents moved in here in 81. I knew it was a dump site, but I didn't know it was toxic.
When I found out about it, it was a program that was offered to first-time home buyers.
With federal monies and city money, you would think that they would have to make it safe enough to build on. They had to pass all kind of inspections. What happened there?
I saw so many damn crows out there. I thought we was like being invaded by another world or something.
Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the crows?
Well, from what I learned, I never knew about this until now, but they tell me, say, wherever they got a dump at, you're going to find a lot of crows. Say, crows like dumps. I don't know what that's all about.
I mean, every morning you wake up, this is on your mind. You go to bed, it's on your mind. All during the day. And you have to confront with other people asking you stupid-ass questions. You know what I'm saying?
So they asked us to conduct a community health survey just to find out how many people had health complaints. The results were really unbelievable. There was an excess incidence of breast cancer in that area.
Too much of toxin and too many people have breast cancer dying and stuff, so I don't think it's safe.
I have 3 neighbors in my neighborhood, in my block, that have had brain tumors or brain surgery. Something is wrong.
You have 150 chemicals. With all those chemicals coming together, you have no idea, not even a scientist could tell us that it won't happen, that it won't do any damage to us at all. Or hasn't done any damage to us.
You know, this is ludicrous for them to come up and say that they're going to scrape off 2 feet of soil, you know, on a 17-foot landfill and expect people to, you know, feel that that's acceptable. I think that's ludicrous.
How bad it was, and especially after we put on one side, we thought that they would move us out if it couldn't be remediated, which it can't be. They say it's 17 feet deep. And the most they are anticipating on removing is 2 feet. Evidently, it's still there. The toxin is still there.
I don't care if you clean up, but you can clean up after I'm gone. Now, if you want to stay and clean up, you can have all the cleanup you want after I have been relocated or bought out.
If the city was 100% behind us, I think we wouldn't be in this predicament we're in now. But since we're in a predicament, I think that the EPA is going about it the wrong way, trying to clean up while we're on site. If they want to clean up, relocate us first, then they could start the cleanup process, and then they could build more homes if that's what they so desire.
Perhaps the most distressing thing about the Agriculture Street landfill issue is the fact that the Environmental Protection Agency has not been an ally of the people of that neighborhood or of local government and my office.
When people say environmental racism, you think about people being screwed over by white people in their community or white people in their government. And whether they want to hear it or not, it's the truth. It was some of our black politicians who made money off of us. It was some of our black contractors. It was some of the black architects. It was a lot of the black people involved who made money off the black people that moved in, who only wanted a decent place to live, to raise their families as a starter home, and to move on eventually, or to retire and then do something with their lives. That's environmental racism. When your own people make money off their people and use it against you. And now they're trying, they've done nothing to help us, and instead of trying to help us relocate and move out of here, they're trying to keep us back here so they can make more money.
I had a dream.
God.
That one day we'll be all free. And this is the man's birthday this month.
Yes.
I had a dream. The dream is no longer alive. Not with me. And not with our city officials, the congressman, the senate, and every damn body else. I had a dream.
Pat, we getting out.
We getting out.
We getting out, Pat. I'm telling you, we getting out.
We
If it
getting out
kills me,
by
we
faith.
getting out.
We have to walk the walk,
believe in my
talk
heart.
the talk.
We getting out.
We getting out.
We getting out.
Gordon Plaza. we have residents and people who have been longtime advocates. Every resident there is an advocate for their community. But I want to turn it over now to Mr. Jesse and to Miss Angela, who will introduce to you the rest of their team. So I turn it over to Miss Angela and Mr. Jesse. Thank you.
Hello. I'm sorry. I just some members of the Gordon Plaza neighborhood have Miss Jewel, Miss Jack.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at one time. Thank y'all so much. Right now, because of the way our technology is set up, we can only have the folks in the room speaking at one time, and then Miss Shannon speaking at one time. Is that okay? Miss Shannon didn't hear a word I said because there was no mic opening, huh? Okay, I'm gonna tell in the chat. All right, but I'll be over here with the clicker. I know Miss Shannon wanted to start off because she had wanted to introduce the film, but some tech stuff was happening. So I'm just gonna cut her up so she could be able to be heard by everybody in the office, okay? Okay. Yeah. All right, Miss Shannon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead and unmute Miss Shannon.
Hi, everyone. The film you all just looked at
All right.
was
It is a little delayed.
that was the first committee you all just looked at.
All right.
Was the first committee that they formed.
the first committee.
That was formed back in 1984, 85, when all of this was discovered about the landfill. And Mr. Don Lewis was one of my neighbors who was growing gardens, gardening, as you can see, in his backyard. Everyone that was in that film that you just saw was Miss Peggy Grandpré, who was president at the time, Alodia Blanco, who was vice president at the time, Mr. Parker, who's no longer with us, that passed from cancer, Mr. Patrick LaBeouf, who's no longer with us, that passed from cancer, Miss Betty Egana, who's no longer with us, that passed from cancer. And so that was the first board that was in existence when we first started the fight for the Agriculture Street landfill. So that film that we just saw was the first that I remember that was put together to let people see and hear what the community had to say. That I remember that was put together to let people see and hear what the community.
Thank you, Miss Shannon. I'm sorry. It's always fun doing tech things back here. Thank you for giving us that overview on the back end of. Hold on. you. All right. So, Ms. Shannon, what we're going to do right now is give folks a chance to get just a little bit more insight from you, Mr. Jesse, as well as Angela, about how did it come to be to organize today? How did the collective really form? And then share out some insight as to what just transpired earlier these past few days, as far as an update, if you can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm trying not to go too far back, but I kind of have to go back to when I came into this to kind of give you a better idea of how it all actually came into play to what we're doing today. And in no way times a day, but I do have to say that I'm not clear on some of the date, the timeline as far as relates to everything. But I do know that I'm not an original in the neighborhood. I came actually in 1988, and there's no way in the world that known this was that I was buying a house on a toxic waste landfill that I this time. So I did come to the neighborhood in 1988 with the knowledge of it being a toxic landfill. Okay, when I was a kid, I lived 8 blocks away in a desired housing project, and I used to sneak away from home, and we used to play on the landfill. Okay, we called it the dump. We did not know it was a toxic waste landfill. I did not find out it was a toxic waste landfill until some time after moving into the neighborhood. Or the so-called American dream, finding out it only became a nightmare. So I'm not exact on some times, but it had to been somewhere in the maybe very late 80s, 89, 90-ish, somewhere in there. That's the way I always term it, that I found out that it was a toxic, it was first brought to my attention that it was a toxic waste landfill. And it was brought to our attention by an organization called the GTO, Gulf Tenant Organization, led by a guy by the name of Pat Bryant. I think he's still around. I've seen him some years ago and we talked. But anyway, after finding out that what was discovered there, I mean, people had been known, I believe, that what they were putting people on top of. Okay, they claimed that there was no knowledge of it at the time, but I think someone knew what they knew. They knew what they were putting the residents on. Okay, it was all for profit. That's in the name of profit. Profit over people. So anyway, after finding out that we purchased home on a toxic waste landfill, we started organizing. Okay, and we took our fight to the city of New Orleans, the Orleans Parish School Board, and the Housing Authority of New Orleans. Okay, it's a long thing, but I'm gonna breeze through this thing, so that y'all can just get a very good idea of how this went down. Okay, so through organization, we got the EPA involved in this thing. Okay, keep in mind the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, wasn't in existence when this neighborhood was developed. Okay, however, through testing by the Environmental Protection Agency, we found out that there were 150 contaminants that we were living on top of, 49 which are carcinogens or cancer-causing agents. Okay, 1994, we registered, filed a class action lawsuit, okay, in civil court, February of 1994. That same year, the Environmental Protection Agency classified the neighborhood as a Superfund site, okay, because of the toxins, okay, that they discovered, okay. They deemed it is really not fit for human habitation. Keep in mind that we lived on top of a Superfund site and not near one. Okay, which made it even all the more worse, than what we would have liked it to have been. Okay, I mean, being near one is bad enough, but being on top of one, it's a whole nother thing, y'all, just to let you know. Okay, so moving along, somewhere in 97, 98, the city of New Orleans partnered with the Environmental Protection Agency, and they decided that they're going to do a cleanup of the land. Well, that cleanup, we determined that it wasn't a cleanup, it was more of a cover up than a cleanup. Okay, because how can you clean up 2 feet of soil and there's another 17, 18 feet, and who knows, it could have been more beneath there. So what was cleaning up, removing 2 feet of dirt and putting 2 feet of fresh stuff there going to do? It's supposed to be a cap to protect us, right? Okay, they put a barrier there. To keep in mind, the barrier was not designed to protect you from the stuff, the nasty stuff that was beneath the barrier, right? It was just to let you know that if you were excavating, that, hey, this is the danger zone, okay? You don't go beneath that stuff, all right? So, but anyway, there were 9 residents that decided not to allow them to do the cleanup for different reasons, but I'll tell you what my reason was for not allowing them to do it. First and foremost, I just thought it was scandalous. I didn't think that the cleanup was legit anyway, as I said. So I wasn't going to allow you to come on my property and expose me while I'm living in my house, while you're looking like, with all this protective gear on, looking like astronauts out there, head gear from head to feet. Okay, while I live in my house. So in protest, I said, no, you can't come on my property. I'm not allowing you to do a cleanup here. Okay, and if they scared people, okay, they're scared people, telling them that their properties are going to be redlined, they won't be able to get loans, and I say to hell with it. I don't need a loan. Get the hell off my property and just don't come back. Okay, so that's the way that went. But that cleanup, so-called cleanup, was completed at somewhere in the year 2000, 2001, I want to say, somewhere up in there. Okay, and then in 2006, we won a judgment that was handed down by Judge Nadine Ramsey in favor of the residents. What good did it do? Because it never produced a dime. Whoever decided that you can sue the city, but you cannot, they don't have to pay you. It was simply ridiculous. Why would you put a law on the book that's saying that you can sue somebody, but they don't have to pay you? Why should I sue you? So that's where we are today. Let me go back just a little bit. In 2015, we all got checks from not Hano itself, because Hano is also a public agency, just like the city of New Orleans, a public agency, Orleans Parish School Board, public agencies, all protected by state constitution, saying that, you know what, as long as you're trying to allocate these funds, this money, then okay, you're okay. So they can use that to their advantage, and that's what they have done. They hid behind the Constitution and say, hey, we'll allocate a certain amount of money every year, we'll make loans. Y'all probably heard that recently on the news. Lee Zurich has done highlighted some things about the city, not paying these judgments, and you can go back 20 years where they owe people money. And it's shameful that the city of New Orleans chosen to exploit people and take advantage of people in that fashion, that to use the law to do what they have done to people. Okay, and we're some of those people, to be frank. So we got little menial, very small checks that didn't amount to nothing. It would not have relocated anybody. So we could not move off the money that they're giving us. So then I'm gonna turn the mic over to Angela, because this is where the fight comes in today that brings us to where we are.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted you to hold that one moment for a second, Mr. Jesse. Because Miss Shannon, what you can't see is her hand was in her raised. So I'm gonna raise up the sound in the room so she can speak. Just mute your microphone right there. Thank you.
Listen to that what Jesse said. Everything he said was correct. But he missed the point because after Katrina and everybody moved back in their homes, nobody decided to continue this fight. And as I said, and I tell everybody that maybe back in 2013, sitting in church with Monique Harden, we having a conversation on Agriculture Street landfill. And then she introduced me to Angela Kinlaw. And then she was invited to my house and we had a conversation on the community. And this is how the community got back started again to fight for a fully funded relocation. It was where I was just home and God just appointed me to begin this journey all over again. I attended a meeting, and when I attended this meeting, Marilyn and LaDuina was at the meeting, but they was at the meeting for the old folks' homes, and I was at the meeting trying to get information on how can we start this relocation up all over again, trying to get folks off of this toxic landfill. So we joined together, myself, Mr. Sam, who went with me to participate in the majority of all the meetings that I went to. And then Miss Ludwina and Marilyn started participating along with our little member, Joshua Allen. And we put this back together and started fighting for the community. And then as times went on, we asked Mr. Jesse to come aboard. And when he decided that he wanted to come aboard, he did. And that's how we got back started with trying to get the community to get relocated off of this toxic landfill. When I continue going to meetings to meet with Angela, and she continued taking me to different meetings, taking me to different places that they would have different meetings at, and I would attend, and then Miss Ladwina and all them started attending the meetings. So we did that, and now where we at today, as Mr. Jesse was saying. But before that, no one else picked this up to start it all over again until I God appointed me to do this. So I just wanted to get that in there. And now with Angela, myself, Jesse, Miss Ladwina, Miss Marilyn, this is where we are today. And the rest of the community that's there, that we have joined. At first, it was just the board fighting. And then as time went on and the community saw that we were serious and things was getting to the point where we were fighting harder and harder and harder. And then they joined in, and then we started having the community meetings, and then we started having the yard meetings, and now we become one. And because we became one, and because of the fight that we give to them, this is why we are where we are today.
Okay. Hello, Miss Shannon. I just want to be able to acknowledge just have our people. If they can hear from that side, but I want to say thank you to Miss Shannon for that. I'm so grateful to be here today because when Miss Shannon called and asked to meet, and she shared what was going on with Gordon Plaza, I'm going to tell you, I could not really fathom in my mind that what she was telling me was reality. I could not envision in my mind that a city could have an entire community of Black people promoted to for the purpose of purchasing homes, and it be at that point 30 some years later and it not be resolved. I couldn't imagine what the experience had been for 3 decades prior to Ms. Shannon having this conversation. So I understood why people were not highly motivated to engage in a struggle when decade after decade had gone by. But after going back and forth to Ms. Shannon's house, because it took me about a good 6 months to a year to really understand what was transpiring in a real way. Because even though we know it's a problem, the real question is, what does it take to resolve it? And I want to say that it's not going to fully be resolved until the residents of Gordon Plaza not only have access to their full funds, but are living in healthy homes of their choice. That is an expected outcome that we all collectively have as community, because if it can happen to the residents of Gordon Plaza, it clearly can happen to anybody else, and it is happening to other people to this day. I could not be more encouraged or inspired by the residents. I think about Mr. Sam, who's sitting here in the front row, and thinking about just each and every story that he would tell, not only about his journey, but about Miss Betty, who's no longer with us, and the fire of a freedom fighter. With a clear demand and being in collective solidarity all the way until this point to say nothing less can possibly do. No promise that anybody could give, no words or affirmations that anybody could give. The only thing that can bring about a material change for our people is for them to have access to the full funds that they've been fighting for to move into healthy homes of their choice. In June, the 23rd of June, this past June, the residents were finally able to secure $35 million to be able to have it officially allocated, approved in the form of an ordinance for them to have their homes be repurchased by the city of New Orleans, who sold them the homes and the land in the first place. In addition to that, this past week, the residents fought again because not only is the money approved, allocated, and sitting in Liberty Bank right now collecting interest despite what they say about interest, we know for a fact that the residents not only need their home bought out and the land, but they actually need relocation costs for moving expenses. Why? Because number one, the materials in their homes, just like the home has been impacted, have been soiled with the toxins as well. So it's not like you're just gonna put your stuff in a box and roll out. It's a requirement that they have the opportunity to purchase their furnishings over again, if they so should choose, because it's the furnishings, it's the moving, it's all of the expenses attached to moving. And moving, as we all know, is not ideal, even under the best of circumstances and situations. And so while we have a community that is predominantly elders who are not going to, we can't even imagine expecting them to carry their own boxes, load their own boxes and move them. They're gonna have to pay for some support with that. So all of those things are included. Here's what everybody should know as of right now. It's really important that folks know the city of New Orleans has taken no action to initiate supporting the residents of Gordon Plaza. The residents of Gordon Plaza pulled together an expert team of legal support, environmental support, and real estate support to come up with a replacement cost analysis to say, If we were not including anti-Blackness and racism, environmental racism into the equation, what would be the payout to be able to fund the entire relocation, knowing that even when you get the money, ain't nobody walking away rich from this. That money is going to be reconsumed by somebody that you have to pay a home to, purchase your stuff over again, and engage in all the expenses associated with moving. That report came back and said $510,000. And the $510,000 pays for the house, pays for the land, and pays for every bit of the moving expenses. But the city of New Orleans was still dragging its feet. I don't know whether you all know, but on November 2nd, this past November 2nd of 2022, a report came out, and a press release came out from the National Fair Housing Alliance in DC and said, appraisals result in discriminatory practices for Black people in Black communities like the residents of Gordon Plaza. This report comes out and only affirms what Black people have always known. This report comes out and affirms what the residents have been sounding the alarm about for the last 10 months. The residents of Gordon Plaza did not trust the appraisal process. So they asked one community member to stand and be an example for the rest of the community. There are 67 properties. Let your home be appraised. Let the result of the appraisal come back, and let's bear witness to it in public space and see the result. The city of New Orleans hired an appraiser to do that job, and the results came back, not only confirming all of the concerns that the residents of Gordon Plaza had before, but when the appraisal came back and the appraisal was made available, the residents then again asked an additional Louisiana licensed appraiser to give a second opinion on the appraisal. Gave a 14-page letter indicating all of the problems with the appraisal, things that the residents had already been concerned about 10 months ago, a year ago. We're at this point now where the city of New Orleans is responsible for replying to what's supposed to be different in the appraisal process for the rest of the properties. Because no one would get an appraisal like that from their neighbor and say, hey, yeah, now come and appraise me as well. The residents have 40 years of experience making an intentional decision that your word is not trustworthy. So the actions have to result in something that looks different, sounds different, and moves them closer to the ultimate demand of a fully funded relocation, meaning access to the full funds that they need to move into healthy homes of their choice. So last week, a fund was opened up for them to get access to their relocation cost. Next week, which is Tuesday, the goal is to go in for them to be able to have the opportunity for the funding source for that to be named. And the goal is to move on to make sure that they can get access to all of those funds. I'll wrap up by saying this. You can go to gordonplaza.com, read more, listen to more. There's some videos in there for more information. Number two, we have some signs here. So we would welcome you before you leave to actually hold up a sign, take a picture with the sign, and post it on your social media using the hashtag Gordon Plaza to demonstrate your support, standing in solidarity with the residents of Gordon Plaza. And number three is a call to action. If you can be available on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, November 15th at 4 o'clock, you can attend the Gordon Plaza Task Force meeting and just be present. You don't even have to say anything if you're nervous. You could just sit there and be a present body of support for the residents of Gordon Plaza as they persevere and advance this fight and struggle for a fully funded relocation. Thank you.
Angela.
Try to get in as much as we could.
Thank you. So as you know, at Ashé, we're very organic. So I wanted to, first of all, my name is Constance Thompson. I'm the creative producer here at Ashé. And I sit alongside, of course, Mama Jamila, Miss Carol, and everybody who you see navigating the space, right? And so the reason why we came up with this theme of accountability through community solidarity is because both of the movements between Lincoln Beach and Gordon Plaza really is a testament as to what it looks like to keep your foot on somebody's neck who they promised they were supposed to do things or say just give lip service about the things that they say they want to accomplish or things that they want to do. These policy change makers and politicians, right? And so what we've all been able to witness is the endurance and the passion and the commitment to coming up with our own solutions. Oh, I'm not even talking in this mic. Sorry. To coming up with the solutions to our issues, even if we didn't create the problem, right? And so I wanted to offer space now for anyone who had any questions, because oftentimes we do not think we hold the answers to our community issues. And what we know is that the strength and unifying body can solve everything. So whether it is fighting to be relocated from a toxic landfill, or whether it is a big gaping pothole in the middle of your street, knowing that you have neighbors and people who are engaged in your fight together to change it. So with all that being said, if there was anything that you heard from either Ms. Shannon, I'm gonna work on the sound, or Mr. Jesse or Angela, or something that you've been having on your spirit as to what it looks like to hold other people accountable when sometimes you're often a person of one. Anything, if you have any questions. Thank you, this is Bliss.
How y'all doing? I'm Bliss from New Orleans for Lincoln Beach. I do have a question. What do you feel has been the most impactful move that you have made that has changed it for you? It's been 30-something years. What changed the game? What got some results, got some movement on the project? Because I also, but I also heard you say that now you're waiting for the city to reply, and that's been a constant state, of stagnant, of being stagnant, is because we're waiting on the city to reply. So what has been something, or the most impactful thing?
If I can just share one thing, I want to make very clear. I don't want anybody to be under an illusion that because Mr. Jesse's sitting here, Ms. Shannon's sitting there, and I'm sitting here, that we by ourselves are the answer. The collective is the answer. And there's collective power. Even me, I'm a member of the New Orleans People's Assembly, part of a collective group of people. And so when we move in collective, like you all are with Lincoln Beach, and I don't even think about it as you all are, I think about it as we all are. Because when Gordon Plaza wins, we all win. When Lincoln Beach wins, we all win. These are things that we need for our community across the board because they change the conditions that impact our quality of life. The answer is in our solidarity. And I know people want like a cookie cutter checklist, do this thing, do that thing. But when we are politically clear, and we must be politically clear, because we're a praying people and we love a God. And I was born and reared as a spiritual person. I am deeply spiritual. And I also know that faith without works is dead. So it's imperative that our solidarity be demonstrated not only in word and action, which also means in the moments where we don't agree, we carry a common interest that no matter who outside is trying to do a thing to intervene and stop, we carry a common interest that is not in alignment with the people who have an interest to intervene and stop progress. It doesn't matter because we would still be on the plantation tonight if we were waiting for somebody to make a determination to do us right. It is in our collective solidarity that we will always find the answer. And I hope that between our political clarity, which requires a political education that's different from these backward educations that come through these schools designed by people who are not trying to invest in the liberation of our children, one, to being able to engage and struggle in a real way, we will always find our answers amongst the collective. I wish one of us had the answer, but it's in the collective that we have the answers.
Ashé. Thank you. Ms. Shannon has a comment she wants to bring in.
I've learned through this fight, if we all stick together, you can demand what you want. I've learned through this fight that if you stick together and you go to the city council chambers, as much as we went to the city council chambers, and we sat for hours and hours and hours and we demanded what we wanted, if I didn't do it, and if I was not there, I would not have believed it. But if you stand in solidarity, like Angela said, and all become one, and you tell them what you want, you can get it. Because just being with the residents of Gordon Plaza, having meetings with them, even when I couldn't go to the city council chambers, they were there. And they were all fighting for the same thing. And the city council members and the mayor's office, they realized that they work for us. Now they have to jump through hoops to do what they're supposed to do. But now I realize they listen. They know they have to be on time with whatever they say to us. And they know they have to have everything in order, because everything they say to us, we hold them to that. And that was a great learning to me. Because at one time I thought you go to city council's office and they said, no, we're not gonna do it. That was it. But I've learned that you can fight for what you want. Thank you.
Just a super quick thing that I want to say, and I'm so deeply grateful to be in community with our siblings on the front line with Gordon, with Lincoln Beach, is that there's a difference between unnecessary delays being in the pathway of where we aim to go and moving so quickly as haphazard. Because what ends up happening is people will put up delays and we have to decide that those delays are not acceptable. But what they don't get to do is drag their feet and then drag you across the finish line in ways that do not align to our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Because that's what happens sometimes. You're demanding a thing, people are not doing a thing, and then it's like, I'm gonna throw anything at you. No, that's not what's gonna happen. And being in solidarity is important because I don't personally live in Gordon Plaza, but I feel like Gordon Plaza is my fight. Because if the city of New Orleans treats elders who actually own their homes, then what they care about somebody who rented, what they care about somebody who's unhoused. We have a responsibility to fight for our human rights, and we get to do it with dignity. People don't get to disrespect us and not be met with resistance. That's important. Our tolerance level has to be one where we don't get to just say, oh, this is just the way it is. On the street that I live, I've been fighting for a year and a half to get a street light to work that just started working 5 days ago, y'all. And I'm out here. It took a whole year and a half to get it, but it took my neighbors saying, come together to get this street light on because we need it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Can we offer up some applause? Y'all And one thing that Angela shared with me, early on when we were discussing how this is going to take shape, she said not all the time the residents want to share such deep history. Thank you. All the time, because it kind of reinforces trauma, their traumatic experiences on the front lines time after time after time. However, it's necessary for people to have that ancestral memory and that historical starting foundation point to know that whatever change does take place, when folks do get relocated, right? This is setting a precedent for folks who are engaging in the same type of struggle across the world. Okay? So I thank both of you for sharing. I thank you, Ms. Shannon. because it's after midnight in Egypt. So thank you, Miss Shannon. And all of the residents. That's right. And all of the residents and supporters who have been showing up. And so I wanted to offer a space for us, to now transition into how we can continue to reclaim spaces also that are for us, that are designed by us and here for us, right? And before we step into the Lincoln Beach conversation, I wanted to offer up some song, some dance, and some healing through what the waters are capable of doing at Lincoln Beach to transition from the Gordon Plaza conversation to Lincoln Beach. So thank y'all. Thank you. If you can, folks, there's a restroom. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. How could I forget? The folks in Egypt don't need to hear about this part because they can't eat it. Or folks are online. But please, we have some refreshments in the back.
In no good sense, smoking my desires away. They could never be yours. And hopelessness has their heads another place. They could never be yours. no goodbye. Find no angle to make peace. They could never be Monday morning, I am ever waking hoping that it was a dream. But it seems that I am still asleep. Loneliness settles softly like a song, where the beauty is the pain. Please come back. I can tell you what I mean. It will never be yours. Every morning I am ever waking hoping that it was a dream. But it seems that I am still asleep. Monday morning comes again and I have no regrets that I can ever hope to face without a trace.
So this should be good.
My name is Bliss. I am the other co-founder of New Orleans Community, and this has been a peaceful protest. Turn it up. It's okay. I'll speak louder. You can turn it up. I'd like to introduce you to Mother Earth because this is who we've been honoring since this has started. I've gone by many names. One of them is the Mermaid of Lincoln Beach. And the reason I'm called that is because I was drawn to the waters there. And many days you find me cleaning up, but you would also find me floating on my back. That's a long time. On this very kayak right here. But the floating was to honor my grandfather, who taught us all his grandchildren, how to swim in a time where many of us did not swim. We were afraid of the water because the water had seemed destructive, or at least it's wanted to be it was destructive, but we did not ever really fully embrace the healing powers of the water. So when I was called to be in the year 2020, that's what my focus was. Clean the sand, keep the trees and the birds and the butterflies and the grasshoppers, dragonflies, the turtles and the fish and the crabs and the oysters, the plants, that we knew nothing about until we learned just by being there. Because this was the space was dirty, and this space was the clean space, and it still is the clean space in the country. This beautiful song from the woman, I care about you. It's going to be so appropriate because the water is what inspired us all to this project. And from here we have expanded out to connect all the world in Rwanda. It's been an incredible journey for me. Like, it all started and always comes back to the Mother Earth and to Rwanda. We remember that we can live off the land out there in the beach. We remember that we can let things go and get free and inhale oxygen that wasn't tainted. And look around and see concrete and sidewalks, broken sidewalks.
I met this beautiful dancer on the beach. I know she does not know I'll tell the story. But it was the water that brought us together in the sisterhood. It was the water that we spent hours just gazing at the sun, absorbing the sun, speaking, talking, hearing, connecting with other like-minded individuals. This next song, these next two songs are original songs. That was just some thoughts I was speaking out here. I wanted to, before I even came out here, I was write a song about, a good song about rain, because when we speak about rain, it's always crying and tears. So here's my happy song about rain. If you turn it up a little bit, that'd be great. I love when it rains, babe. Wanna be in your space. Hold you tight, look in your face. Take a breath, change the pace with you. Stop the world beating. Reach your climax, we could go on through. Right now I just want to love you when it rains. I'm at work, chilling in the morning. No lie, baby, it's getting hard to stick around for some rain coming down. All I can think of is how I want to get away from you. Run under the rain like I have no fear. Share a couple of happy tears. I love it when it rains. I love when it rains, baby. Wanna be in your space. Hold your tight, look in your face. Take a breath, change the pace with you. Start the road with you. Reach the climax, we can go up to. Right now I just want to. I got it when it rains. Let the rain rain. The streets don't be flooded most of the day. But the breeze is nice, so okay. My mind's all over the place. All my good things is how I wanna get out and join rain somehow. Yeah, come on. I love it when it rains. It's like this hit slide, my friends is in the road, already way out, Jupiter no time, floating on cloud nine, now we go way down, and I don't care, cause I'm running right there, yeah. It's warm up, free in my air, scratch my natural glare, elevated, catch there, and genuine natural cut, with one pair in a whole world, and with care. It's like the rain is my heartbeat. It's so slow, but when you need the cadence gets the tripping time. Your essence, I'm requesting your presence. You drop this perfection to see the time traveling your years, a taste of my being in school, breeze and sweetness. I love when it's like this. Hey, I love it when it rains. I love it when it rains, babe. Wanna be in your space. Hold you tight, look in your face. Take a breath, change the pace with you. Stop the road with you. Reach your climax, we can go up to you. Hey, come on. I love it when it rains. Here's another one. This is about the beach. There is no question, because it's a sky and they can't touch it, no matter what they say. There is no question, because it's a sky and they can't touch it, no matter what they say. Don't revolutionary, I prefer revolutionary. I'll be on the beach, chilling with my peace, carrying my vision on me. You can count on me. I got what you need. And baby, so will you. Use a body juice. Use a body juice. I'll take you right there. Yeah. You know what it takes. Now it takes to make a strange. This song got me motivated. Y'all forgive me a little bit. And Tuesday, saying, yes, we can, but this is my take on it. I know we can make it. I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know we can make it. Yes, we can. I know we can. Yes, we can. I know we can make it. I know we can make it if we try. yes we can. Now's the time for all the men to get together with one another. We gotta earn our promise, our work, try to live that purpose, and strive to find the peace within without stepping on one another. To respect the women of the world, now that you always love us, make each land a better land in the world in which we live. Gotta help each man be a better man with the kindness that we give. I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know we can make it if we try. Oh, yes, we can. No, we can. Oh, yes, we can. If we try, yes, we can. I know we can make it. I know we can make it if we try. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. No, we can. We gotta help all the children, the little children of the world. The spirit brothers over the future, the little bitty boys and girls. We got to make this land a better land than the world in which we live. Gotta help each man be a better man with the kindness that we give. I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know we can make it. Yes, we can. You know we can. Yes, we can. Why can't we? If we want to get together, we can work it out. Yes, we can. 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 Why can't we? If we want to get together, we can work it out. Yeah. We can work it out. Yes, we can. You know we can. Oh, why can't we? If we want to get together, we can work it out. Yes, we can. You know we can. Yes, we can. You know we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. You know we can. If we want to get together, we can work it out. Thank you. Yes, we can, no, we can, yes, we can. Yes, we can, no, we can. Oh, yes, we can, no, we can. Yes, we can, no, we can. If we want to get together, we can work it out. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Bliss. And thank you to our phenomenal dancer, Crystal. All right. Okay. Yes, we are going to. Oh, Mama J is going to do it. Sorry. Thank you, Mama J.
We're all in our places with bright smiling faces. That's because we know we can.
That's right.
We sit here as living proof that we can, and we will. And we will. So we want to give it up again. The beauty and wonder that is the talent of us. And we want to thank Bliss and Crystal for bringing us that beautiful bridge. Our culture has always been that bridge that has kept us risen above the stuff. The stuff. So don't forget who you are. We want to welcome and open our next panel and discussion, which will talk about Lincoln Beach. Lincoln Beach, my beach. My beach, okay? And joining us all the way from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, we want to first of all welcome Sage Michael. Thank you for staying awake. And I mean that in more ways than one. Thank you for staying awake. We also want to acknowledge and introduce our panelists who will be with us on stage. And we have my sweet baby Malik. We have Sister Shawanda, and you all have met the beautiful Miss Bliss before. And we're also going to get our dancer up here, and Crystal will also join us. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to them because they got what we need.
Sorry for moving around. I thought I could see the stage, but I can't. So
who want to start the conversation off?
the historian. How about we let the historian?
Wow, this turn over to you. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malik Bartholomew. I'm the owner of No Nola Tours. I'm a local historian and community griot here in New Orleans. It's such a blessing to us to continue to understand our ancestral story as well as our ancestral land. So when this story of Leaking Beach once remerged and reconnected into the popular sphere, I was so excited and was so happy that people were reclaiming space that was made intentionally for Black people here in the city of New Orleans. I was honored that Bliss and Sage, asked me to be a part of this. And when you think about spaces and places using it for recreational use in the city of New Orleans, most spaces and places were not designed for Black people. So whether you're talking about Jackson Square, whether you're talking about Audubon Park, City Park, a lot of the young people do not know that these spaces were white only. And that reality is a reality that needs to be taught and needs to be passed down because for most of the history of New Orleans, Black people were denied recreational spaces to gather and to come together. So the spaces that we did have was sacred, was beautiful, and was empowering to us as a community and as a people. Also, if you look at the city using, and I love what our brothers and sisters with Gordon Plaza was talking about, because when you understand the history of Lincoln Beach, it is a centuries of Black people in New Orleans demanding spaces and places that they can go to swim. Because we all know it's hot in New Orleans in the summer. And a lot of times throughout the history of New Orleans, Black people would go to the river, they would go to the back near the swamps. When they had the canal that used to be the Lafitte Greenway, they went to the canal that is now filled in. They would go to the canal, but there was always, and they would go to the lake, but there were always drownings. There was always deaths. Because even though the city, and there was a beautiful display is that the city would develop as they continue to realize the importance of recreational spaces, Bayou St. John, an old Spanish fort, in the West End, and those spaces were for white people. So eventually, they would say, oh, well, give the Black people the far end of the lake, and that's how you get the Seabrook area. Now, a lot of Black people, sometimes we have connections with places, and we don't know why the word Seabrook always resonated with Black people in the community, and that's because that last little strip of little dirt back there before you get to the east, that was for us. But like the Mississippi River, you had drop holes and sinkholes that people would go in, they would drown. So the NAACP, the Urban League, all the way back in the 20s and the 30s, they were demanding of the city that a proper recreational space on the lake will be given to Black people, and the city ignored them for decades. Finally, in 1930, there was a businessman. He said, I will give 2 acres in Little Woods. Now, we have to realize in the 1930s that the Ninth Ward is not developed all the way. So if New Orleans East was it was just virgin land. It was nothing there. He was like, way in Little Woods. He said, I will give y'all 2 acres. Do you know why? He was like, look, we can put the Blacks way in the back where we won't see them. So the city was like, great. So he donated the land. And you know what the city did after they donated the land? They put the lake fishing camps near the Black people beach area. And the fishing camps polluted the Black people beach. So once again, they really didn't have a place to do recreational activities in the lake. And this was in the 30s. In the 1950s, so this is 2 decades later, 20 years later, the Mayor Morrison, was like, you know what, I'm tired of the NAACP and the Urban League, and he had a grant. He was like, you know what, we're going to make a space for them, and they decided to create what we now know of as the modern space of Lincoln Beach, putting sandbarges and creating the area in 1954, and in 1958, it opened to the public. So it's so funny, Bliss, that a lot of Black folks have a lot of memories of Lincoln Beach, but Lincoln Beach had a very short lifespan. So from 1954 to 1964 is technically the lifespan of Lincoln Beach, but it has such a big impact. But it also shows city willful neglect. And sometimes we have to hold the city of New Orleans accountable, not for what they did today, but what they did yesterday, because they have created our reality today.
That's right.
And they have to pay for that.
They definitely have to pay.
So all of that is a part of that great history of Lincoln Beach. And in 1964, of course, with integration, Black people then go to Pontchartrain Beach, which was the white beach. If any of y'all went to Chicken Fest, I was saying how nice it was to be on the Black side of the lake. So if you own New Orleans, we always talk about the Black side of the lake and the white side of the lake. And we knew where Franklin Avenue was, that was the Black side of the lake. And Black people started allowed to go to Pontchartrain Beach. And however, as more Black people started using Pontchartrain Beach, the city and the contractors intentionally closed the beach down. So there was no beach. Not because we didn't have one, it's because they didn't want Black people in that area of town, near UNO and Gentilly and etc. So for all those years, these beaches have lain abandoned, have laid not really being used by the city. And then I was so thrilled in 2020 where a group of young people went to reclaim the land that was theirs and that was their ancestors, which will lead us to the progress and the work of the Lincoln Beach Committee. So Bliss, what is the Lincoln Beach Committee?
Okay. So, all right. We started, Sage and I founded New Orleans for Lincoln Beach in May of 2020. And I think by November, the mayor had formed the Lincoln Beach Community Advisory Committee, where she gave us 3 seats on this committee. And the 3 seats were the 3 officers who were on the board of New Orleans for Lincoln Beach, since we had such heavy representation from the community. But at that point, Sage had formed Sageville. And so it was kind of weird because one of the co-founders of the organization is now kind of not involved in the process of the political process, which it kind of all worked. It was definitely stressful, but it all kind of worked out how it needed to be. It placed us in places where we each needed to be and could function within our realm, right? So how it started is Sage, I saw a post that Sage had posted about, this is our space and we're not here. There's a lot of Latino people there, a lot of people from indigenous to other islands, not this island, there. So when I first went, which was the very next day, I went and did an interview with LBJ with News with a Twist. And when I walked through the space, it wasn't as easy as it is now. You know, we had machetes, there were trees, you had to watch out, spiders, things, falling on you, branches, insects, horse flies, It was beautiful and it was nasty, So I walk straight to the water because that's just me. Walk to the water and I turn around and I look and I'm like, yo, this is this space that I've been dreaming about. This is the space I was looking for when I, looking for vacation, right? But then I noticed that people were sitting in piles and mounds of like glass and trash and, it could almost look like a waste site, And so that bothered me a lot because this gentleman right here, my father, Wayne Wallace, did not raise me to walk over trash. If there was a straw paper on the floor, he'd be like, hey, he called me back from across the room. Did you see that when you passed it? You need to pick it up. So, okay, can we let Brother Sage, this will be a great time for you to say something.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, you hear me. All right, great. Y'all, I'm coming live from Egypt. It's a beautiful blessing to be out here. Thank you, Ashé. For me, the movement started when COVID hit. I was a barber for 30 years, and I couldn't cut hair anymore. COVID shut that down. I love nature. I love our natural resources of New Orleans and New Orleans East. It's a beautiful place in New Orleans East. There was a lot going on in New Orleans around the country. Omar Arbery was killed. I've been around New Orleans all my life, born and raised in New Orleans. I've seen my community get pushed out. We got pushed out from our homes in the city to New Orleans East. And a lot of us left and went to Slidell. But for me, I wanted to make sure we had a safe place for our people, a place we could heal, a place that, we could get the benefits and we could really exercise our democracy. You see, Lincoln Beach is a place of healing for us and for many people. It's an exercise of democracy. That's what they say. But for us, it's really a place that we need economic benefits. It's not something we as Black people are just gonna come in and pay a fee to come in. We need to have the contracts. We need to have the jobs. Our children need jobs. This is a place that we have alternative to incarceration, a place that our contractors can get work. I'm looking forward to the day where Malik give tours on Lincoln Beach. I'm looking forward to the day where Bliss have concerts on the beach. Looking forward to the day where Crystal is dancing on the beach. And we have a full audience that I saw at our share right now. And that's the community. It's an exercise of democracy because we have everything we need in the community. And we talking about the city on New Orleans, on Lincoln Beach. We are the city of New Orleans. My mama cooked the ray beans. They made the Bays at Lafitte guest house. But we have no space in this city. There's no place in New Orleans that really say Black Lives Matter and where the economic benefits are there. Only thing I see is downtown getting built. I don't see Lincoln Beach nowhere on no advertisement, no marketing of Lincoln Beach. It's like it doesn't exist. But there's a beach in New Orleans, hidden behind a levee wall, which I call a prison wall. On one side is mankind. All kind of crime happens. They got all that support. They got murders and fortunately all kind of traumatic things. But on the other side, where the beach is, I'll call that's human side, because there's no crime over there. There's healing over there. It's a safe place for everyone. And what I want to do in my lifetime was to bring everybody together and let our light shine. Do not hide our light under a bushel, and make sure that we come together in unity. One common thing we could do: Christ washed his disciples' feet. We could clean up Lincoln Beach. They say it can't be done one bag at a time. And it is so weird that Gordon Plaza has delays, Lincoln Beach has delays. But guess what? We are winning. Gordon Plaza is winning by unity and solidarity, because in that fight, we are living. We are not let nobody lay down and put their foot on our neck if we're standing up. And we stand up 10 toes down in truth and righteousness. And no one should impede the path of the righteousness. It's against your own survival. And so that's what we stand on, biblical principles that get us forward. And thankful for everybody who come in the community, come together, because we are strong, and together we are strong.
We were up night after night. I mean, we have over 8,400 members in our Facebook group and over 3,400 on the Instagram page. And those numbers came in 2020 and has been kind of stagnant since then, because we stopped pushing, because that was the ask of the city, stop encouraging people to trespass, right? But for us, it always has been, it's never really been, I know when we say fight, rah, rah, it's never really been a fight in that way, but more like a fight to keep your sanity while you pushing it for this to win, because there's some of the things that that when we were first doing this, the council person in the area, Sage and her, had gotten into a huge debate that got really crazy. But she was talking to us in a way saying, well, you can't just open this beach with $20, and saying things that made us feel we were belittled, you know what I mean? So for me at that moment, it's always been, oh, they think we're stupid. You know, they're talking to us like we have no knowledge. And the more I dug into this, the more I found that there have been several efforts, right, to get this beach open, and that this was definitely not the first one. We just happened to come in a time where they were doing tours. Cindy Wynn was touring, doing investment tours with people, bringing them in by boat, because it's not trespassing by boat. So, you know, we've had several, you know, and in the beginning it felt like they did not want to educate us on the process until, you know, they realized we weren't going anywhere. You know, we went to every environmental group and meeting you could possibly go to, all the way up to the state. We've done interviews with the New York Times, USA Today, all of these, you know, all of the New Orleans publications, Louisiana Weekly for sure, I think was one of the first. And just saying that learning the process of policy and what's needed to be done has been very character building for me. And many times I wanted to just, you know, be my blackest self in a room, even when people were like, why are you here? You're too light skinned. And I think, I'm like, baby, this is 2022. And we're still talking about this. We're still divided in a lot of ways. And why? Because of the people who are trying to stop this from happening, from trying to keep us from having this peace, are throwing these little tidbits in. They've been doing this since before slavery. You know what I'm saying? Oh, light skin, dark skin, long hair, this hair, that hair. You know what I'm saying? All of this, that when you look around and we're fighting and we turn around and say, hey, I can actually be whoever I want to today and look how I want to look. Why are we still treating each other in this way? Why do I go to your meeting and I am approached with anger? And I understand your anger because I feel it too. But why is it directed at me? I'm just a messenger. So we have to, you know, one thing that I'm asking us as a people is to stop shooting the messenger, one. And two, we each have, I mean, we're saying we're fighting for our rights and our right to have our own opinion and our own desires and our quality of life. But if that is true, then if we have a difference of opinion, why does that have to result in anger? And I got to tear your whole character down. I have to disassemble you as a person because of your feelings. So we're here. Okay, we're going to bring it to Shawanda so we could talk about bridging the gap between the youth and the elders and the community's input.
Thank you, Becky. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. All right. So I remember the first time I heard about Lincoln Beach. I was a little girl, and my mother used to tell me stories about this mystical beach that she went to as a child. And I remember growing up and going to Pontchartrain Beach. But she said there was another beach, and I'm like, what? Like, where is it? You know? So in my mind, growing up, Lincoln Beach was always this place that I heard about, but never saw any remnants of it. I'm like, where is this? She said, it's in the east. Like, I know the east. I don't see it. Where's that? So to be a part of this project is an honor, and it's almost like a dream for me. Because when I first went, Sage took me on a tour of Lincoln Beach, and crossing over that levee and just getting down there is a whole journey in itself. It's like, oh my goodness, this place is real. It's right here. And I grew up in this area, and it's been right here the whole time. Why didn't I know about it? It was mystical, it was magical being there. So I'm excited to be a part of this project as the interviewer, or I call myself the story gatherer. I gather the stories, I harvest the stories of our people, because there's nothing more powerful than us telling our own story. We have to tell our own story, because other people will tell it if we don't. So in the community, I go and I speak with people who have lived experiences in Lincoln Beach. And I love hearing those stories. Everybody talks about that long drive down Haynes to get there, how fun that was, to be with family and to be with their cousins and their sisters and family and parents driving down. It's like almost going out of town, they say. coming from the Ninth Ward or wherever they were coming from in the city, driving down there. And I tripped out when I found out that Little Woods was the whole Haynes. That whole area was Little. I'm like, what? Wow. So it's so fascinating. We have the stories. We are New Orleans. New Orleans is a compilation of all our experiences and our ancestors' experiences. So this is what we want to capture. And to hear those voices and people say, they start out like, oh, I don't have many memories of Lincoln Beach, just a little bit. I was so young. I don't know. Man, before we finish, they talking down. I'm sorry. It's like, Lord, we've been here 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You said you had 5 minutes of story. And we still talking, but I love it. It just starts pouring out. Because all this stuff is in us and we want to talk about it. But nobody's asking us to talk about this. Now it's time for us to talk about it. And that's what will bring it back to life. So anybody you know who has stories of Lincoln Beach, holla at your girl.
Speak about your experience in Lincoln Beach and your spirituality and the flow of water.
Thank you. To go off what you said, I grew up hearing stories. Like, I would always tell my mom, like, oh, I wish we had a beach. Like, why New Orleans don't have a beach? And she like, oh, we do have a beach. And the same way, I was like, where's this beach? Like, I grew up in the East, so I'm like, where's this beach? And I would find myself like going to places like, Miami, Costa Rica, just trying to get that vibe, sand, and it's so funny. I literally had just got back from Costa Rica. And I saw a post, it was a cleanup for Lincoln Beach. And I'm like, oh, where's the beach? Like, I've been looking for it. And it's so interesting because even as a child growing up on Haynes, my friends and I, we used to go over the levee, over the train tracks, and we used to go walk on the marsh. Like, it was nothing but marsh then. Like, before Katrina, it was just like feet of marsh, and we would walk out until it was completely like, okay, don't go no more. We hitting the water. But after Katrina, I remember going over there and seeing no marsh and just feeling like, wow, like that's gone. Like, my memories of like, I have to hold on to those memories. It kind of became real for me of how the land is really disappearing. So going back, just got back from Costa Rica. I go to the cleanup and I haven't seen this since a child. So I really don't remember. And then I go out there and it's just like, when you walk through the forest, everything opened up and then it's just this like line of beach. And then to add the cherry on top, it was so funny to me, right? It's nothing but Hispanics out there just like celebrating and talking. And I'm like, so I just flew all these miles to go to the same vibe that's already here, right? And so for me, it was kind of like dreams coming true of like, what I wanted has been here all this time. I just didn't know about it. And it's funny, I'm telling everybody now. I'm like, Mom, I went there. We gotta go. Like, you gotta do a little bit to get over there. But she like, I'm not trying to do all that. And I'm telling my brother, I'm like, yo, you knew about this? And he like, yeah, I used to take you there when you were a baby all the time. And so it came full circle for me, and it's something how even when we don't necessarily remember, our body remember the land, like our desires remember the land, because this was something I was desiring growing up and not remembering that I had been there already, until it came all back to me. So my involvement just has been to like tell people, and just my friends. Like, I still have friends that grew up in the East that has not been there. And I'm like, yo, we gotta go. Like, every time they come in town, I'm like, we gotta go. Just so they can see the things that they go, travel out of town for, just to see that it's here. So I'm grateful to be able to share that.
So speaking of that cleanup,
That's what kind of got everybody's attention. The first cleanup, we called it Clean Up and Chill. And I don't know, over 100 people, I think, probably showed up and came out, cleaned up lots of glass. I think there were 200 bags of trash at that time for the first cleanup. And there were things like people were getting things like barbed wire gates and things pulling out of the sand. So about at 1998, okay, we're gonna wrap it up. Okay, so just to say, there was a lot of work that has been done over the last 2 years, and a lot of maintenance that's been going on. The city has not maintained the space because it's not operational, so there are no funds being used to clean up the space. So it's all in the community.
I just wanted to say really quickly that there's so much joy in that space. I could feel the joy. You know, water is powerful. Water holds a lot of energy. And I just think of all the stories that I'm hearing from people who are sharing about their experiences at Lincoln Beach and those stories that I heard as a child. And imagining seeing them. You go there and it's like everything's not still up like it used to be, but you can see it with another eye when you look. You see the roller coaster, you see the pool, you see these things. But all that joy that people had, you know, over the years, is still there. And it's there for us to have. So
Also, what's magical about Lincoln Beach is that when it was abandoned, the land went back to a natural indigenous state. And what I loved about the people who they came to respect the space and not alter the space. So for the Lincoln Beach Committee, for Sage Michael, for Reggie Ford, for honoring the land that was out there. And I say, because you know, most people come out and say, I'm going to build this and I'm going to alter this, but instead they respected what was there and what had came naturally, even after people had abandoned it. So, and making natural drainage pipes and drainage systems and doing things that actually aided the land and brought the water back to the water. So it was just a beautiful process. And I think that is one of the goals of keeping the environmental piece of it with the natural wetland and et cetera that it has created at Lincoln Beach currently with the trees and everything.
Definitely.
We're going to invite Sage to come back in. I know he has something he wanted to add to the conversation right now.
Thank you. I just want you all to know, leading a movement and bringing everybody together, you're on a cutting edge of taking the hits. There are many scars I have physically, mentally, and spiritually. Moving this project forward, you can only imagine that. I try to engage with every city government official to move the project forward. And basically, a lot of times you get muted. You send out eloquent emails and they don't respond to it. You actually get targeted. City government targeted our supporters by sending parking meters all the way to Haynes Boulevard and write parking tickets on one block. That hurt me. It hurt me so much where I sacrifice everything in my life as much as I can every day to move this project forward. Building relationships with everyone, community members, non-government organizations, from the Troy Carter to Cindy Wynn, the Isle of Atonement, to Jason Hughes, to everyone I could possibly put a touch on moving our project forward. And it's a fight. But as long as God get us up, I'm going to do everything I can to connect people and resources to make sure our elders who deservingly be able to walk through that gate. And for our children who are suffering in these streets, have a place to go. And for our organizers, like our family with Gordon Plaza, who are working diligently, I want you all to come over there and heal. I want everyone to be able to have a place to heal. And know this, there's a lot of trauma going on out here, and Lincoln Beach is that place to heal it. And to the process right now, what's really stopping it is delay. It is a project manager that's really not connected to the people. It is the government that's muting the people, the person that's connected to the people. And so this is not an attack on any person. This is an attack on the process. And so we got to have a legit process and the equitable process to move it forward. So if you want to do anything for Lincoln Beach right now, I need you to contact Sharon Robles, the project manager, and tell her release the proposal so we could move the project forward. That's the main thing right now. That is the delay. Without a proposal for the design, you can't have a place. You can have all the money coming down the pipeline, but without a contractor to move it forward, it will be delayed. In this holiday season, that deadline has been shifting all the way. And there are people dying on the streets right now that need a safe place to go. And I want that to be opened up as soon as possible. If you want to do anything, contact the project manager and tell her release that request for proposal for the design for Lincoln Beach so we can get these gates open for our people.
And as the president of the Lincoln Beach Community Advisory Committee, I'd like to redirect those comments to Oliver Thomas, our council person in District E for New Orleans East. Sharon Robles, the project manager of the Lincoln Beach project, is actually, this is new news, Sage may not know, she's actually waiting on a report from our organization. We just had 3 community sessions and a survey that we collected information from the community. So they're waiting for the information from the report that we are giving them to guide the RFP. So it's still, last I heard it was December, it's still December. As I know it, it may have moved to January because the last time at City Council, the community requested a pause so that we could take the time to review the CEA between the city and the state, releasing the $500,000 that the state is dedicating towards the project, and in order to give the mayor permission to move forward and break ground on the project. So instead of putting it before city council where it could be voted down possibly because community members, requested that it pause, they didn't put it up for vote, and it's going to go back, I believe November 20th was the last information I was given. Sharon Robles did give an update recently. So yes, I think Oliver Thomas and also Joseph Threat. Joseph Threat is he's the chief of the Office of Resilience, where the money is released. So those are the 2 people that I think he just stepped in to kind of take initiative and look further into the project. So we want to talk to him, say, hey, when is this CEA between the community and the city going to happen? I think we should put some pressure on those 2 guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's not over. We've had a call to action. Action is movement. We have a call to action now. Any questions? Anything that you want to propose to our panel, to Sage? Any questions about today and discussing our movement, Lincoln Beach, my beach? Questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I know about the project because our relative Monica in the back was working with it. I had no clue it was going on. I don't do social media, and I know that a lot of what was happening was through social media. But the minute Monica told that to me, I was like, okay, how you get in? I had to go see, and I know it. I was born in 48. So I'm one of those children who would think we were going to Baton Rouge. That's how I felt, And besides that, my godfather worked the merry-go-round with the horses, so we were free a lot of times. But I I'm saying that because I think have you been on radio? You know, and so I'm just saying for people, my peers, like that, they wouldn't really know this was happening if you don't reach out through mediums that they use. And so that's what I'm gonna suggest. And I know you have like that, what you said, sister, that good feeling, because Monica can tell you, I didn't stop till I got up that levee, down that ladder, almost. And I've been since that, Brother Sage knows. The other thing I want to say, and if I can, is, and I think I said this to Sage, and I know it's not inappropriate, but I work on as a reader of proposals, and I'm telling you it was an honor to award to the Lincoln Beach Committee the $10,000. Everybody was like, yes. It's not a lot of money, but it was something, and I just wanted you to continue.
Thank you, thank you. That has been something that has challenged us, because it did start during COVID. So online at first was all, the only option, even when the committee was started. So if you have any suggestions on how we could bridge that gap, of coming together, consistently in person, online, email, I definitely would love to talk about that. To say I've been on a show called Women in Politics. It comes on every Friday. It's a Facebook Live, and then on Saturday mornings, 10 o'clock, it airs on WBOK. So now there's another avenue we can hear an update about Lincoln Beach. Thank you.
Remember, word of mouth. Tell somebody. Tell somebody. That's fun, especially with our elders.
Not everybody is on, this is what Mama Jamila continues to remind me, people might not hear me on in there, is that not everybody is on social media. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody wants to be on social media. And sometimes you don't want your stuff on social media. Because people who also, as your movement building and organizing, people all watching you organize your organizers, and they're going to see your every step. So just to lift up what Mama J sometimes shares with me.
All right. I just want to say thank you for your efforts in revitalizing the lots of New Orleanians. I just wanted to know if there have been, in your conversations with being allocated funds to revitalize your project, has there been any of that money specifically allocated to testing the water quality or any of those environmental issues, especially since there was that concern of the fishing farms being, pollutants back in the day? Are they allocating additional money for the environmental protections, or is that money also expected to come out of what's been previously allocated?
Sage, you want to take that?
Yeah, so one of our great partners, Pontchartrain Conservancy, they actually did water quality testing on the site that they had funds.
Yeah, so
And that's been working. As of now, there has not been a reallocation of funds for them to do water quality testing as of right now. So you're correct. But there are $500,000 that Bliss referenced to earlier that's being worked out through a cooperative agreement with the state. And we're hoping that some of that money be allocated so we can continue that water quality testing on the site. One thing about those reports, the water at Lincoln Beach is some of the cleanest water tested across the entire lakefront. And that's a beautiful thing. The animals love it. And actually, when you touch the water, you're healed by the water. So thank you for asking that question. And we'll raise that point again. And hopefully our partners with like Pontchartrain Conservancy, who've been doing excellent water quality testing, some funds will be allocated for them to continue that.
We've heard a lot. We know a lot. We know a lot of people. That's rich, y'all. That's rich. Don't negate the power that you as one individual have. And that power is exponentially, it just takes off when you tell one other person. So first of all, we want to ask that everything that you've gotten today, that you tell at least one person. And when you tell them, you ask them to tell someone. A lot of work has been done, but there's a lot of work that's left to be done. Before we close tonight, though, we want to hear from you. And we're asking everyone, don't forget those names. Project manager, what's her name? What's her name? Call her name. Because you got to tell somebody, right? Y'all know Oliver? Talk to him.
OT, that's right.
You know OT, talk to him. Talk to him. But before we close tonight, we want to gather.
Sorry, I also wanted to acknowledge some folks who are in the room, who also aided in supporting this installation that we have up. The two poster boards that we have was the update from the 2018 timeline for Gordon Plaza, as well as the history, the did you know aspects of Lincoln Beach, that it was printed for us through the Midlow Center at UNO. And I wanted to also thank the UNO Studies Department. Correct me, what's the full title of the program? Kendrick and Ms. Yvette.
Midlow Center of New Orleans Study. We are in the public history program, the masters. I gotta repeat myself?
Yeah.
So yeah, we are part of the Midlow Center, Midlow Center of New Orleans Study. We are master students in the public history program at the University of New Orleans.
Ms. Yvette, and there was another.
Yes.
Oh, okay, Sister Amanda, who have also been really influential as far as like the organizing, behind the scenes, getting ready for today's event. So thank you all so much. Thank you.
We don't want to neglect on the table.
Yes. Thank you.
In the back, in the rear. And we'll have more if you need them. Oral histories about Lincoln Beach. Tell us again, how do they contact for Gordon Plaza?
People can go to gordonplaza.com. There's an actions page, so you'll always know what events and actions are coming up. We also have some Gordon Plaza support signs, so we would love for you to take a photo with one tonight, post it with the hashtag Gordon Plaza, and we'd love to share. And then on Tuesday, November 15th at 4 p.m., we welcome all of you to join us in the chambers. Even if you don't want to say anything, just being a physical presence in the room if you're able to come and be in solidarity with the residents of Gordon Plaza.
Tell us again, how do we contact you? What do we need to do?
New Orleans for Lincoln Beach Facebook page or Instagram page. We have NewOrleansForLincolnBeach.com. We still need a little help with that. The oral histories as well.
Yes, if you have oral history of Lincoln Beach that you'd like to share, we are recording your stories, your memories, and this will go on a website and will be put in an archive where people can, generations from now, can come back and listen to you tell your story of Lincoln Beach. So that will live on forever. And also, as an incentive for anybody that may want it, there is an honorarium, a small honorarium to help for your story, just for your time. So please, you can contact the website.
New Orleans for Lincoln Beach. NewOrleansForLincolnBeach.com.
Right.
Also,
I'm sorry.
There's a very important budget hearing meetings Monday morning, 9:30 to I think 5 at City Hall, City Council meeting. So they're going to discuss a lot of the things that affect our neighborhoods, and I do believe that Lincoln Beach is one of those things. So, and most definitely Gordon Plaza, if not, it should be, and I'm sure they'll be there because they're very strong, and we need to support them.
Before we leave today, we want to invite you to gather in a circle. Just come gather toward the front. And brother, you go ahead and sit. We're gonna gather with you.
Yes.
So that brother's our pivot point for our circle. Remember, we came as one. When we circle up, we are a mighty force. We are a mighty force. So we're gonna make a mighty force. You know, and part of my Lincoln Beach story, my great-grandchildren and my grandchildren, just this 4th of July, said, Mom, you ought to go out there. They out there at the beach. I didn't ask them what beach, I knew what beach. So they got a lot of people out there. There are a lot more that should be there. So we're going to pass the mic around. And Sage, since you're there, I'm going to ask you just a word to close. Just a word to close.
You gotta give him a 10-second from your leg to when he says something.
You're there. I'm going to
Together we are strong. Together we are strong.
Together, we are strong.
Justice.
It's already done.
Thank you for your efforts.
Together, we are strong.
Together we are strong. Thank you for your efforts.
Peace, love, and hard work.
Don't be afraid.
Accountability.
Connection.
Strength and resistance.
Past, present, and future.
Solidarity.
Dedication to each other.
I believe in community.
Commitment.
Your breath of life.
Your words are strong.
You must believe.
Prosperity.
Your voice matters.
Energy never dies.
Unity.
In community, we have all the answers.
Keep the faith.
Where earth, air, fire, spirit, and joy meet.
Know thyself and tell your story.
Disagree in love.
Our freedom is beautifully present.
Y'all keep getting the youth to come out and support.
Faith. And we're going to give the last word to the one who will have the last word. This generation. He's been talking the whole time. He's been talking the whole time. One of the things that I say about our babies is that they know all the secrets of the universe. And that's why they can't talk. Because we're not ready. If he told us, we wouldn't and couldn't listen. So we have to keep him and our babies remembering what they have brought here for us. Because one day they're going to be ready to tell us. Last word. Ashé family. Ashé our family in Egypt and all of you here. Ashé, Ashé, Ashé.
You check your email a lot or no? Okay. Next Saturday, in the powerhouse.